in 1 Timothy chapter 6, verses 1 and 2. 77 years ago, our forefathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty, and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Doubtless you recognize those words as the beginning of one of the most famous speeches in American history, the Gettysburg Address, delivered by then President Abraham Lincoln on November 19th, 1863. A call for equality that was a direct affront to the practice of slavery in the Confederate South. Some would even say the Christian South. Pastors and church members all across communities in this state and other states who were buying, selling, trading, using and abusing predominantly African slaves. Without question, one of the darkest periods in American Christian history. A period of history that makes a passage like we're reading this morning a bit sensitive to us in this room. Paul says, "Let all who are under a yoke as slaves regard their own masters as worthy of all honor, so that the name of God and the teaching may not be reviled. Those who have believing masters must not be disrespectful on the ground that they are brothers. Rather, they must serve all the better, since those who benefit by their good service are believers and beloved." So as soon as we read that, we think, is Paul endorsing slavery? Is the New Testament endorsing slavery? And you go into the Old Testament, you see slavery discussed there, and you begin to think, does God support slavery? This has been one of the more significant, especially recent questions posed to Christianity, particularly in light of the practice of slavery by Christians in Europe and America. So what does the Bible say about slavery? And why would Paul write like he's writing here in 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 1 and 2? And what does all of that have to do with our understanding of the gospel and slavery in the world today? So that's what I want us to dive into. And we're going to be all over Scripture, so get ready to turn to some different places. Kind of keep 1 Timothy chapter 6 as home base. Turn to some different places. There will be places we won't have time to turn to. You might write down different verses. But before we even dive into Scripture, I want us to think, just preliminarily, and I could put this in your notes, just a minute about slavery and history. Because world history is filled with various different types of slavery. So when I say the word slavery, I'm confident that certain images pop into your mind all across this room. And I'm guessing, based on different people's background, different images probably pop into your mind. When you hear the word slavery, you immediately associate that word with practices, abuses, injustices. And so what we need to realize from the very beginning is this word slavery actually represents many different practices in the history of the world, some of which are far worse than others.